All right, so welcome to GoddState, guys. We are going to do this fucking conscious car combo content. Look a mouthful. Um, I am the Golden Dragon. I am GoddState, and so what I want to do is just get some in the moment content about. We'll basically ride. We ride. We hit it out of town um, for GoddState, but what that means. What that means for a lot of people. But before I do that, why don't you just tell them who you is?
It's me, JP, JP.
Yeah. Life is easy.
Life is easy.
You know, we could call this bubble talk.
Bubble talk.
Is that a conscious car combo?
Oh yeah, I like it.
Call it bubble talk.
Yeah, bubble talk. Creating your own bubble and staying in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I live in a bubble. Oh, you must live in a bubble. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Intentionally stay in your fucking bubble.
Yes. There's limited access to the bubble. Yeah. Yeah, how you doing?
You got Grandma G riding.
I got Grandma G.
You got Grandma G riding.
Grandma G, come with. Come through.
Oh, you gonna do something at the ocean?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
She was a beach babe. What? You just realized that? He just realized that.
I was like, why she got some sand? We didn't even put
Oh my God! It's
Why you got sand already?
It's not sand.
To the beach. Yeah, we literally got ashes from her grandmother's transition in the car with us, riding with us right now.
He just realized
Tell
that.
them why we have ashes in the car riding with us right now. Can I show them?
Yeah.
All right, so these are actually cremated ashes. And you probably wonder, why the hell do you have them in a mason jar? This is what the funeral home gave me back.
No.
Just fucking around.
Come on, man. I mean, it's better than what they gave him in a plastic bag.
Plastic bag in a black fucking plastic box?
Yeah.
I have more respect.
More secure in a mason jar.
Why do you have them in a fucking, why do you have her ashes?
Because I'm doing my Ashes to Art project with Grandma Jean, and I got way too many of her ashes, so I didn't need as much. I don't know what I thought I needed. She's my first creation of art, Ashes to Art, and so I said, well, we're going to the beach, and she was a hot beach babe, so we're just gonna take her back to the beach.
Right.
And that's why she's riding with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you got a plan for her yet?
No, it will come.
Okay.
It will come. It will likely come maybe when I'm playing some of the bowls on the sand with my feet in the water. It'll work itself out. I'm open.
So, what is this Ashes to Art thing that you talked of?
It's quite literally ashes into art so that people can have a better way of commemorating and remembering their loved ones or loved animals, whatever facet. So I infuse the ashes into the paint and I do artwork with it. And yeah,
So is that a thing? I mean, is that a thing? Because when this goes viral, like lots of people gonna be calling.
No, that's the thing.
It's an actual thing that people can actually contact you about.
Yes, you can contact me.
And actually get their ashes put into a painting.
You can
their loved ones.
Contact me at alignment designer or align@livingartistry.org.
One more time.
Alignment designer on Instagram or align@livingartistry.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we got that out the fucking way. That was a little scary.
Why was that scary?
I mean, I didn't understand why we had sand in the car.
Oh my God.
Why do we have sand in the...
He's my favorite, y'all. My favorite.
Yeah,
Love you so much.
I love you too.
What? I thought we were talking about some conscious shit. Like, what are we doing?
Well, I guess. Okay. I guess we need to, right?
Oh.
Well,
I mean, it's your show. It's your state. I'm just swimming in it. So let's do whatever you want to do.
I mean, that's a good thing to talk about. We can talk about trauma around transition, right?
Okay.
Trauma around transition. That's a dope ass title. Trauma around transition.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's heavy. People don't talk about death hardly ever until it's right upon you or it's already happened and you're having to deal with the aftermath of everything. And most people don't have things in place for their loved ones to just plug and chug the plan because most people don't even want to talk about it, even though it's quite literally something that will happen to all of us. So, and it almost always will change the trajectory of your life when someone close to you passes, dies, transitions, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
Unless you have a healthy relationship with what that looks like before it happens, which I've yet to meet somebody with that mindset.
I think that may become the purpose of this whole live stream is just to talk about like the God state side of it. Like be the God you are in state. Like what does that mean as it relates to trauma and transition, right? Um, there's going to be feelings I think excited or feelings that you have one way or another. Um, like for instance, you could go a whole life hating somebody, right? And still, if they're part of your family, if you haven't totally written them off, if they make their transition, you still could feel a certain type of way. Like you still could feel some sadness.
Well, there's the finality of them being gone. And if you actually hated them, which is a very strong emotion, then there's unresolved things that happen there. So it could ensue a whole slew of other emotions when they do die.
Right, like maybe I should have forgiven them.
Or I never said what I really wanted, even if it's I never said what I really wanted to say to that asshole.
Yeah.
Like I wish I had said it when I had the chance.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not always about making up. Sometimes it's about getting it out and letting it out, and not holding on to the feelings that you're experiencing.
Like I didn't take that to my grave; they took it to theirs.
Right. I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
But either way, whenever somebody transitions and the finality of knowing that you will never have a physical conversation with them again happens, it does something to the way you think. Now, personally, I believe that you're still going to have interactions with them in an energetic form or maybe in a different body or
clearly
modality, right? But
clearly we're still having interactions with okay.
Okay, since you want to bring her back up,
I'm sorry.
Grandma Jean was a very vibrantly authentic woman who quite literally didn't give a fuck what anybody thought about whatever she wanted to do, and she would tell you in the nicest, funniest way, "I don't want to."
Yeah,
and
she was great.
She was so amazing, and I'm just so happy and grateful that I had the chance of meeting her and knowing her, before her transition. So props to you, Gurji. Thank you.
Wasn't there a story that you told me a while back? Like, did she like change the color of your hair or change your hair color?
No, that was my aunt.
Oh, that was your aunt. I thought that was Grandma Jean.
No, Grandma Jean quite literally reunited me with my birth family.
Right.
She was the one who changed the trajectory of my life through giving me a whole family in an email. So, and through her fearlessness of looking for her birth daughter and then looking for her birth granddaughter. So she was quite an incredible woman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so you brought up a really good point. Is the trauma around transition is really related to how you define death, how you define finality, how you define what you consider to be a final of somebody being in your presence. Like, there's really no finality, right? You can't really say that that's the end. I mean, especially if you believe that you are source energy, you are energy. And this side note, like that's what this whole station, that's what this whole live stream, this whole GoddState movement is about, is knowing that you are the God that you really are inside. Like you are source energy. You are living, walking, fucking breathing source energy. So, um, with that knowing, there's no way that you could. I mean, because what? Once you die, that's it. Like that's the end of your soul. That's the end of your energy. Is there no other place or no other possibility that anything else could happen when you make your transition or when you transition out of this body from expressing in this body? Is there no other possibility that you can express some other way? Like I think that's where so many people get caught up.
Well, I think people don't even have an idea of what they think until it happens.
Oh, okay.
And that is where it becomes so traumatic. I was just talking to a client about her father passing and talking about my Ashes to Art project. And she was saying how he knew he was getting ready to go and y'all take these sticky notes and put your name on whatever it is that you want in the house, and the grown adult children couldn't bring themselves to put a sticky note on anything.
Wow.
And so the father's like, yeah, it's coming, I'm ready. Like, just know it's around the corner, y'all work this stuff out now. And they couldn't bring themselves to acknowledge what was going to happen, even with the warning of it happening. And almost potentially from the perspective of, if I put my name on this thing, then that seals the deal for his transition, when he's going to transition regardless. Right. But up until that point, there's no conversation about what life and death looks like and how to assimilate to a new reality where your father's no longer here in this physical form.
Yeah. I mean, for all intents and purposes, like, why don't we talk about death? Like, why don't we talk about, not death, let me not say death, let me call it, why are we so afraid to talk about transition when people transition from this state? Why are we so afraid of that? Why are we so scared of even thinking about it? Like a couple years back, me and Jen tried to really think about putting stuff in place for when my mom makes her transition, right? And it was the most intense conversation that I probably ever had with her, because she didn't want to talk about it.
Your mom.
My mom.
Yeah.
Didn't want to talk about
Yeah.
it. Me and Jenny had talked about it. Like, we was like, we need to do this, that, and third. Like, we chat GPT. Like, what do you need to put in place? Like,
What are
all this
things?
shit. Yeah. And got my mom on the phone and stuck in her ways, scared somebody's gonna try to take something from her. She's scared. Really, she was scared that talking about it would cause it to happen faster.
Right. Well, to be fair, that's coming from when she would process people's wills and then they would die. Right? Because she's a lawyer and she would do the paperwork that we were talking about needing to get done, and then the clients that she would do it for would then die within a reasonably quick time after doing that, because most people wait until the almost last minute to even try and get that stuff done. So in her mind, she's built up this narrative that if I do these things, then this is what happens next.
Yeah.
You know, and she let her tell it she gonna live to be 153. You know,
I mean, I hope so.
Right, but if she doesn't, then there's that too, right?
So that's a good point. Like that brings up like the kids.
Mm-hmm.
When parents, okay, so this is to the parents. If any parents are watching this, like to the parents, what are you doing? What are you leaving behind when your affairs are not in order for your kids to have to take on? Right? You know, a lot of times I've heard about kids inheriting houses that still have mortgages on them. If your child is in a family, they have their own family, their own mortgage, their own home, and then you leave a house to them that's not paid off, right? And then they have to pay that mortgage. You're dumping a whole nother bill, which mortgage typically is one of the biggest bills that you pay.
Well, I mean, if there's more than one child, then it's a whole nother situation. I mean, we're really getting into the nitty gritty of all the details of it, which I don't think is necessarily the focus of what we want to talk about.
Okay.
The focus, at least what I want to shed light to, is literally just talking about it, you know, and making it a conversation to the point where you're like another client that I had where their mom had a whole binder of every account, every password, every email, every this, every that. She had everything laid out and had everything ready to go for her kids so that when it was time for her to transition, all they had to deal with was the actual physical loss of their mother and not having to figure out what to take care of, how to take care of it, where's the money going to come from, blah, 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 all those things. And it was the same thing. Her kids wanted nothing to do with that binder.
Wow.
And so
she was good with it, but her kids weren't.
She's in her 80s. I mean, and she's a pretty active woman. She's still living on her own. But ultimately, you know, like my dad would say, I'm closer to it than I'm not. So it's kind of like, you know, let's just be real about it, you know? So maybe the conversation is more for the kids a lot of times is we don't want to acknowledge that our parents are going to leave and that they're going to go, you know? And that's a whole, especially if you have a really close relationship with your parents or a parent where you talk to them often, they're a part of your weekly, daily life. You know, that's a hard thing to think about.
I mean, let me be the first to admit, like, I'm close as fuck with my mom.
Every day.
Every day. Like, literally, might be twice a day.
Mama Deuce.
Mama Deuce.
Good morning.
She calling your boy, like, X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
But what helped me to get over that was coming to or changing my perspective as, first of all, I do not own her. I call her my mom, but she's not literally my mom. She's mom. She's a mom. She had me. She guided me in raising me, but she's not my possession. So one, I'm not losing anything that I own. Okay? So that's one. Two is when you consider energy that all of us are, which can't be created or destroyed ever. There was never a beginning, never end. So I'm not losing. I can't lose anything. Let me tell you a quick story, right? So I was doing yoga in the living room of our house the other day. I say the other day. It's probably what?
Months ago. No sense of time. Honest to God. It's fine. You are doing yoga.
The other day.
Continue. Focus.
Yes. The other day. And I was doing some pose. And I was like, come on, Lulu. Now, for you, y'all don't know who Lulu is. But Lulu was our fur baby. Actually, was Jenny's fur baby before we met. And then Lulu became our fur baby. Me and Lulu just had an instant connection, you know. She was so soft, her fur was just like, I was like, what do you feed her? Why does she feel like that? I mean, the softest hair I never felt a dog felt like this, right? And so, when you tell me you gave her eggs?
Eggs.
Yeah,
eggs. Back to the story, though.
So, eggs. So, anyway, I digress. What was I saying?
You were talking about you were doing this pose, and you said, "Come on, Lulu."
I said, "Come on, Lulu." And as soon as I did that, the light that was on flicked off for like a solid 2 seconds. Like literally 1,000, 1,000. Then flicked back on and did like a flick on, flick off, flick on, flick off thing, right? And in my heart, I felt that was Lulu because it happened as soon as I said that. Are there other possibilities that it could have been something else? Of course, it could have been electrical, not plugged in, whatever. But my point in saying is that if we are all energy, then I can't lose anything. I still have dreams about my dad where I feel like we reconnected. And I feel like not only did we reconnect, but we mended our relationship because when he was alive, our relationship wasn't strong. I had some disdain in my heart for some things he did. But I feel like through my dreams, even the energy has helped me to mend my relationship with him and make that better. So you don't lose anything. So one, I don't own my mom, quote unquote, right? And her energy will always be what it is. It will always be the source energy that it is. So I'm not losing anything. So if she was to transition today, I wouldn't feel a sadness because I don't feel that sense of loss. And I feel like exactly what Jen is saying is like, as children, a lot of children don't have that don't have that. If they do have that connection, they don't want to talk about people. They don't want to talk about the transition because they have that fear of loss.
Well, I think you would miss her. That would not be not on board.
Yeah.
And to be fair, even with the way that you feel about it, there's still a quote transitional period of going from used to getting her phone calls every day to you're never going to get another one.
Yeah.
And so there is a something to the transition of what your life looks like now.
The how changes.
The how it changes.
Yeah.
The missing when Lulu transitioned, for me it was the daily habits, the way I got up and I let her out and I did this and I whatever that, and it had to do with making sure she had her water and her food and this and that. And so for me it was, how can I change up my routine so that feels different?
Right.
And I'm not waking up to the expectation of expecting her to be there and she's not, and I'm still in the mode of doing the routine with her like she's still here. And when I made that shift in my mind and in just my routine of getting up and waking up, it really helped me out quite a lot on being able to not, be upset about her being gone. And honestly, we still talk about her like she's still here. So,
Right.
I mean, and I think that's the other thing too, is nobody ever wants to talk about people once they've gone. Let's continue to celebrate them and their physical memory of all the things that they made us feel good about and not skirt around it. Because every time you talk about someone after they transition, it always reminds you that they're not here. Mm-hmm. Well, let's work through that and let's just continue to celebrate them.
Yeah. I wonder what would life look like if we didn't have funerals.
Ooh, boy.
Like if people just made their transition and maybe the hospitals just did whatever with their body. You did not get the chance to have that funeral of them in a casket or
that is I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But looking at somebody in a casket in that state, one, they almost never look like who they were to you because their bodies are
puffed up,
they're blown up with stuff, they're makeuped up, I mean, props to the people who do it. They try to make them look as like themselves as possible. But when I saw my mom in the casket at the age of 17, she didn't look like anyone I recognized.
Right.
I mean, because she was a very frail, thin woman when she transitioned, and she looked like a swollen. I mean, it just was an awful last memory of seeing her, even though the state that she was in before she transitioned wasn't good either. But that's what I knew, and that's who my mom was.
Right.
And so that was kind of a mind fuck, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the last thing that's seared into your brain. And, you know, this is just our opinions on it, and everyone has a different one. Maybe people get solace or feel some type of, you know, finality. They can let the person go because they've seen them, you know, so to each his own.
Right.
But the point of this conversation is to offer a new and different narrative for what transitioning looks like. So it's not discounting what works for other people. It's just, hey, let's think about this in a different light.
Yeah.
How would this look differently? When Grandma Jean did her transition and we went to the house and they're like, you can go in the room and you can see her if you want to, you know, say your goodbyes. I said, no, I already said my goodbye to her. She actually came to me earlier that day and basically said goodbye. And I didn't understand why I was thinking of her in a past tense. And then later I found out that she died. And so I was like, oh, okay, she came and said bye, you know? And she wasn't someone that I would randomly think of on a regular basis.
Right.
So it was very unusual to me at the time, but I felt like that was our goodbye, and I didn't feel the need to go see her lifeless body on the bed where she left. I don't need that image seared into my mind of the Graham Jean that I want to hold, right? So because I had the option to not be the person to identify her, which I understand sometimes people don't get that option.
Right.
You know, so, but because I had the option was to not do that. And I feel better for it.
If you have to identify your loved one, like, salute to you, because I had to identify my father. But what I should have did is, and I'm so happy and grateful that we didn't have a funeral with an open casket, and I had to see him all like that. But if you have to identify your loved one, like, that's hard enough. And having to see them, why do we do that to ourselves as a culture? Like, why
the funerals?
The funerals, like, what is this thing about having to see a person one last time with no life in their fucking bodies? Like, what is that about?
Well, it's holding on to the concept of the person. So it really all goes back to what's your core belief on death. To me, right. Grandma Jean was already gone before we got to, before I heard about her passing. You know, when we took Lulu to the vet and then it was time for her to go, she was already gone before we made it to the vet. Right. I felt her energy leave the body that I was holding and go somewhere else. She wasn't with us anymore. And so it made it a little bit to make that decision to just go ahead and, you know, end the physical suffering for her.
Yeah.
You know, so but from a personal perspective and dealing with the funeral at a really young age of a loved one, it's almost as if it's more for everyone else, in my opinion, and that's just how I felt about it. All these people who are here at this time for this woman and for the family of this woman, and then months later, where is everybody when I'm actually now grieving?
Right.
Because I've had time to process and think about, and my life has drastically changed from what it was, and all these things are different. Where is everybody's concern and presence now? And that really made me think about the point of funerals and what are they called? Viewings. Mm-hmm. Why do we have to do a viewing and a funeral? If you want to come to the funeral, come to the funeral. What? It's just such a prolonging of all of that, and it's
like, we're gonna make sure everybody sees this person in this state that wants to.
Yeah. I mean, again, to each his own, but it really got me thinking about what is the purpose of that, to the point where recently in my life I've had to say, hey, I'm not coming to to funerals or things for family members, and I knew it would be quite controversial for me to have that conversation with family members, but it really is more of how do I want to deal with this, with the passing of this person or the transition of this person.
Right.
What do I need to do in this moment, and how can I be there for the people who are closer to the person who transitioned? And it's not in the thick of it with everyone who wants to show up now. It's later when they're crying because something happened that made them think about so and so, and now they need someone to talk to. That's what it looks like to me. And so it's just my choice to do that and stand on it. And
so like really redefining, you really you really have to redefine your association with it, right? As a person, as a person, you can't really stand on what other people's association with it is, and I think that also makes it easier to deal with the conversation. Like when you redefine how you feel about the transition, you can say like I've said that having when my mom makes her transition, we're not having a funeral. Like it's not, we're not doing it. And I'm so solid now that I'm willing to stand and tell all my aunts and uncles and everybody else, we're not doing all that. You remember her how she was, happy state she was. And I'm not doing something so you can fly all the way across the world to try to see her in this state because you want to. I don't know. It's like as people like we like.
I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
we want. It's like I feel like we want to be saddened by something, or it's like we want to we want to have something that causes us to feel that emotion in that time.
I feel some of the greatest sense of community and grief, and at the core of it is really just the feeling of community.
Yeah.
And it's the same reason why when one person starts complaining, it turns into a complaint train, and everybody wants to tell their story about, oh well, this is what happened to me yesterday, and that's what happened to me yesterday. And so it's really just a collective of people in that are feeling similar things. And so there's some solace and there's some peace in being in an environment where everybody knew this person and everybody's sad that they're not here anymore. And so I'm not discounting that at all. But from the perspective of, if I could speak for Grandma G, she'd be like, stop that crying, go do something, go have fun, let's go play on the beach, let's, you know, when our loved ones transition, they don't want our lives to stop. You know, they don't want us to stop living. It's almost a reminder to keep living and living to the fullest. Like, hey, this isn't, you know, you're not promised forever. What the hell are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
Wake up call.
Yeah.
You know, keep living. Don't be so crippled with emotion that you can't even get out of bed, or you can't make it to work, or you can't. I mean, obviously, there's a time and place for taking time and all those things, but I mean, when my mom transitioned, that fucked my life up for a long time.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
a good, probably a decade, honestly, because there was nobody was there to there was no support for how to deal with it.
Yeah.
There was no support for when my life completely changed and everything that I knew to be normal in my life became something completely different. There was just no. So let's focus on maybe the aftermath more than the celebration of life or the such and such and the all the semantics of the funerals and the showings. Let's think about how can we support the people who were closest to this person and put more energy into that than we do the show of, you know, the funeral and the viewing or the all of this and all of that, you know. And so it's kind of like the other day I saw a reel where instead of having a baby shower, they had I forget what kind of party it was, but basically there was a list of things that needed to get done at the house to get ready for the baby, put the crib together, put the diaper changing station together, paint the walls, hang up the stuff. And instead of having a baby shower, they had this party and all the friends came over and they helped get that house ready for the baby that was on the way. And for upcoming parents who are already overwhelmed, tired, stressed out, like all of these things. And I could just imagine if we were to apply the same idea to when people transition, what would that look like and how would that feel to the people going through the physical loss of their loved one?
I mean, there's something to be said for the tangible. Your physical body is not here, right? I don't want to take anything away from people that experience, like, you're not physically there with that person, are able to go reach out and touch them or call them. That is the thing. Um, but here's what I think about is like what you just said, coupled with, so we done gave y'all two clues, two keys, right? The redefinition of that, and what was that you were just saying?
How can we support the family or the person who's most affected by the physical transition of this person long term? Not just right now. I swear to God, if you bring one more lasagna to my house, I'm gonna throw it at the wall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like most people don't even want to eat after something like that happens. But we had so much food in my house, everybody just kept bringing all these casseroles and dishes and all this stuff. And I know that was them trying to do the best they could in that moment. And so I'm not upset with them at it. I'm just calling for awareness to the narrative of yes, right now, but also what about later?
Yeah, there's something else to be said for
what about later?
Other help. Yeah.
Yes. What about later? What about what does this look like for this person? You know?
Like
The emotional loss.
Right. Right. In the midst of he's still owed on his house.
Yeah.
So you got finances compounded on top of legalities, compounded on top of the emotional strain, then compounded on top of dealing with the physical asset. Like when I say dealing with the physical asset, like because of the way he passed, he transitioned, we had to get his house completely gutted, like carpet, everything. Mm-hmm. And fumigated, you know. You
lived in a whole nother state.
And I was in a whole nother state.
You're not right around the corner to just take care of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what she's talking about when she's talking about support. Like you want to support somebody, like sit down and ask them, like, no, really, is there anything I can help you? Or do you need to go out of town? Can I keep your pet? Or I mean, shit, I don't know. I'm just trying to think about in my situation, you know. Money would have been better than fucking food. Somebody been like, here's $500. I don't know if it'll help you do anything. It'll pay for a plane ticket or whatever. Pay for a couple nights in a hotel or whatever you need to do. Maybe that'll help. Or, you know, or if somebody would have sat down, if I didn't have my mom, if I'd had somebody else to be like, okay, do you have like somebody to walk me through the process? Do you have power of attorney over his estate? Do you have this in place? Can you go get in his bank account? Do you know his numbers? You know, who is that person that where you can help on? And it don't always have to be super extreme like that, right? It could be like, yo, do you just want to go out to lunch one day and just kick it? You know?
Right, because this person was part of their daily life, and so they're now missing the physicality of this person on the daily.
Right.
And so, for me, one thing that I've always told people, because of the way death was introduced to me in my life, I've always had an interpretation of it that could be construed by people as being callous or harsh when they say someone died. And what I would have for, you know, loved ones that I love is, hey, I'm never going to ask you if you're okay. I'm never going to ask you, you know, X, Y, and Z about the transition, because if you, for some reason, are not thinking about that in that moment,
right,
if you are in a state of peace and ease in your mind and you've reached that into the nothing box of your mind where you're not, it could be like the one moment you're not thinking about when your mom died. I don't want to be the person to jolt you back into that, all of that, by asking a question that seemingly shows that I care, when really me caring is letting you grieve in your own way and just telling you that if you need to talk, I am always here. And so it's up to you to own your own grief, and it shouldn't be up to everyone else to coddle you and to make sure you're okay. If you need help, you should ask for it, because that was another thing too for me, was people would ask this all the time and I'd be good, and then it spiraled down a whole conversation that I didn't even want to go down. You know, and at the age that I was, I didn't feel like I could say, hey, I appreciate your concern, but I don't really want to talk about this right now. You know, I wasn't I was still in high school trying to figure out what life looked like for me after graduation. So it's really just a whole different perspective on how to be there for somebody when they're going through a thing.
What are some ways you think, what are some ways, like, for children, for kids or teenagers that have had somebody go through a transition possibly close to them and that may differ from adults going through, like, in the ways that they could be supported, other than with, like, food or...
I mean, it really depends on the person. Some people...
Like, what would you have liked?
What would I have liked?
When you were gone, your mom?
I would have liked for an adult to be present and just be present for me, because my dad was going through the loss of the love of his life, and he became very unpresent for me in that whole transition, and ended up getting remarried within 6 to 7 months after my mom transitioned. So I didn't really have an adult that was close to me that I really trusted to help me navigate through anything. So I would just say, just keep telling people, hey, I got you. What you need? You need anything? Or just hitting them up and being like, hey, you want to, like you said, you want to go grab lunch? Because that would have given me the opportunity to talk about it if I wanted to. At least it would have given me an opportunity to go spend time with somebody that just felt good and comfortable, and that I was missing at that point. Because my mom and I didn't have a good relationship, but my dad and I did, and so that was just like a whole different mind fuck all by itself. So just really checking in. If you've got some teenagers or young adults that are going through that kind of stuff, it is just really just checking in, and not necessarily asking how they're doing, but just make it a point to be like, have conversation with them in their life. Don't wait until somebody dies to all of a sudden now you can make it down to Georgia from Massachusetts, and it's the second time I saw my cousins in my life.
Right.
Like, so it's I don't know, it's just the whole thing. I mean, it just is more of, how can we keep a supportive network with people that we love on a regular basis, so that when something like this happens, we already know what to do. You don't have to ask so much of the person. You kind of got an idea already what you need to do or who you need to be for them.
So again, we're dealing with the trauma of transition, right? This is GoddState. So that's the side of it from a teenager standpoint. So what does it look like for an adult what does it look like for adults? Like I think that a lot of adults who go through this, a lot of adults hold shit, right? And we're so afraid to tell somebody, like, no, everything's not good. Like,
Yeah.
I need to talk.
Yeah.
Like, no, everything's not
Yeah.
what y'all think it is. But here's the flip side of that. Like, if you're going to be that person for somebody to be able to say that too, when they talk to you, don't spend all the fucking time harboring on all the sadness and grief or the bullshit that was around that transition. Like, don't keep asking them, "Are you sure you're good?" Like, all right, no, really, no, be a listening ear, because really what they want to do is they need to let some shit out. They need to, they not per se put it on you, but they need to let it off of them, and by talking about it. And if you're consistently trying to tell them, well, you need to do this, or well this, or well that, or well this, or well that, you're not being that listening ear. And in this term, I guess it's more sympathetic, but you're not being that sympathetic ear that is like not necessarily that you understand. You may fucking disagree, but if they're trying to talk to you about it, or they're trying to talk their feelings out, that's not the time to be like all finger pointing and shit, right?
Well,
And hold on, but then also, as the adult that needs it, like, don't be afraid to say, yes, I need some help. Yes, I, yes, I'm hurting. Yes, I need this. I need people around me, or whatever you need. Show don't need no fucking bowl of casserole.
yeah. I'm gluten free. What are you trying to do to me?
You don't need no fucking bowl of
Oh my
casserole.
God!
Like, I don't
Fish
even
skips
need
me
bread.
out. Why you bring me to the
I
casserole?
don't need bread or
Oh
cheese or none of that
boy!
shit.
How much did that cost? Just give me the goddamn money.
I'm telling you, just fucking check.
Oh God!
Wait.
But what I will say that I wanted to add to that is, and you and I are very solution based. We're very solution oriented.
Yeah,
We see
yeah.
a problem. We want to, how can we make this, how can we pivot and do something different? What's the solution here? What's the core of the problem?
Right.
And so
How do we fix this?
how do we fix this, or how do we work with this moving forward? So
Yeah.
when people are going through things, people don't want to be told what to do all the time. Like, no
Right.
one does. Children don't, adults don't. Sometimes the other day I was on the phone with my sister, and I told her an idea I was doing, and she just ran with it and told me about all this other stuff I could do with it. And I literally said, "Hey, stop."
Yeah. How many times do we do
I
that?
said, "Stop."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, was I doing it?" And I said, "Yeah, you were doing it."
Fuck, man.
Say, "Yeah, you were doing it." And I'm guilty of doing that too. And so it's really just being able to be transparent and let people tell you to stop when you're doing it. You know, not everybody wants a solution, at least not right away. So one thing that I ended up doing with my siblings was, do you need to talk about it, or do you want solutions?
Yeah.
Both, like, or A, B, C, what are we doing? Is it a combo? And so that made it easier for me to figure out how I needed to be there for them in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And people will tell you, like, when you give people the open door to tell you what they want, do you need me to just listen? Do you want solutions? What was the other one you said?
Or both.
Or both?
I mean, sometimes it's both. Sometimes,
Yeah.
I need to get it out, and then we need to figure it out.
Right.
But sometimes I just need to get it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So still a ton to unpack around trauma and around transition, whether it's your fur baby or whether it's your snake, or
Your real baby.
Your real baby. You know, anything can be. I just had a car that I sold to my daughter. It was my baby,
Aww.
right? And I love that fucking car, but that was, and had to process that a different way in order for me to continue and move forward. So really, the goal here is, you know, part of being the God that you already are in any state, when we're backing it all the way out to not dealing with the quantum so much, not dealing with the metaphysical or any of that stuff. We're dealing with the present day practical shit of dealing with trauma in something where somebody is leaving a physical presence and converting to an energetic state. Notice I say converting to an energetic state, right? So we're not losing anybody to anything.
I mean, that's the state that they already are.
That's the state that they already are.
They're just becoming that solely.
They're just becoming. Look at mic drop. I tell you, you're my favorite.
Yeah.
You're my fucking
Oh,
favorite.
you're my favorite today.
Tell them about your shit again. Like this is the whole point of fucking Ashes to Art, so you don't have to remember that fucking casket scene.
Okay,
Right?
so Ashes to Art is a project from all of that. It's been something I've wanted to do for 20 years, and I've just recently figured out how to bring it to life, literally. And nobody wants to stare at an urn. It signifies the moment that that person died, the moment that person passed, they transitioned, whatever it was. And when, it just isn't something that people want to have subconsciously in their mind all the time. And art is a very beautiful way to express how you feel, to celebrate anything that you want in this life. And so doing the ashes to art and putting the ashes in the painting and bringing it back to life and bringing that energy back into a beautiful, good feeling vibration for that person, and it being something that they can look at and feel joy and peace is just a different way to help people be at peace with that transition. And it's really such a passionate project for me that I'm just really happy to be able to facilitate that for people. And honestly, I wasn't sure if it would be something that I could do. And then Grandma Jean's like, okay, I'm out. And I was like, uh-oh, shit, okay. I guess my first one's going to be with my grandma. And, it really is serendipitous that that's how it started to actually physically manifest in my life, was to be able to commune with her in that way and really understand from the person who experienced the quote loss, what that feels like. And so it's just been a beautiful journey. Ashes to Art, you can hit me up at Alignment Designer or align@livingartistry.org. It's coming. If you need
Are you
help,
gonna have it on your website?
I will eventually get it up on my website, but we're really in the baby phases of getting the semantics of that together. But reach out to me if you have questions or if you need help or if you need support.
Yeah. So let me paint the picture for you. You're walking into your living room, you see this beautiful artwork, and you're like, damn, that's beautiful. And then it hits you, man, the energy from my loved one is actually in that work of art.
Mm-hmm.
They were a work of art. Their life was a work of art. Their energy, their beauty, their essence is a work of art. And then, I don't know, you want me to tell them about the other part to the piece?
Well, it can just be customized.
It can be customized.
It can be customized in a way that is personal and really celebrates the individual. So all of that is to come, and it's just really exciting to be able to be solid in my belief system enough to know that I can do this.
Yeah.
That I can handle something like this where a lot of people would be scared or worried or who knows, grossed out, whatever all those things are. I'm not. I'm really very neutral in this state, and it's really just the focus on vibrating that energy at a high state and really resonating with that, and that's the focus for me.
I want to. I look, man. Like she's the fucking bomb. Like yo, like stuff she comes up with like this, like real talk. It's awesome, man. But we're gonna close this shit out. This is GoddState. If y'all ain't been to the fucking website, go to the website GoddState.com. GoddState.com. I'm working on a new course for the what's call it. I'm also working on finishing the book for GoddState. So got some dope stuff coming. There's already a course in there about cognitive dissonance, and you get access to all the lives that are not on YouTube in the back office. So all the live sessions that are not on YouTube, plus we upload the ones that are on YouTube in the back office. So check that out. Check the membership out. I'm also going to be dropping some blogs about the content that we share online so far as our live streams and our videos. So with that, I am the Golden Dragon. I am GoddState. Deuces.